Welcome to week 3 of our study of dynamic duos. We've looked at the first duo of the Bible, Adam and Eve. We've read about a randomly paired duo, Philip and the Ethiopian, and today we're going to learn from two of the closest friends in the whole Bible. It's one of the most inspiring and interesting stories of friendship in the Bible, the friendship between David and Jonathan in the book of 1 Samuel. Their friendship was an unlikely one. It would have made a lot more sense for David and Jonathan to be fierce rivals, not best friends. Jonathan was the prince, the son of King Saul, the heir to the throne, but David was the more popular choice, the better soldier and leader, and he was chosen by God to be the next king, taking Jonathan's place. Most people would have been jealous, competitive, resentful, but Jonathan actually liked David. They were friends, and Jonathan was even humble enough to admit that David was the better man for the job. Jonathan's dad, King Saul, had the opposite reaction. He was jealous, angry, and bitter that people wanted David to be the next king. He was so jealous, in fact, that he planned to kill David so that he could never take the throne. David was understandably scared and anxious. God had chosen David for important work, but the circumstances caused David to run and hide instead. He let fear and uncertainty keep him from living out his purpose and being the person that God created him to be. And unfortunately, this happens to us all the time. In those moments, his friend Jonathan provided David with the thing he needed most: encouragement. And this is our second characteristic of dynamic duos. They encourage each other. Now, there's a reason the word courage is embedded in this word. To encourage someone means to give them the courage to face hard things, to inspire confidence when it's lacking, to give hope when it feels hopeless, to give them the strength they need to keep moving forward. Encouragement is more than just kind words to make someone else feel better. Encouragement is powerful. Encouragement can really make a difference and change people's situations. They've done medical studies that have found hospital patients with a strong support system of people encouraging them have better odds at a full recovery than patients that don't. Alcoholics Anonymous found 52% of participants with an encouraging sponsor made it to the 1-year mark, while only 33% of participants without a sponsor made it there. GPAs and graduation rates rise quickly if the student has just one encouraging adult in their life. Encouragement is more than just saying, "You can do it." Encouragement actually increases people's odds of being able to do it. Who knows if David would have even made it to the throne and become the man of faith we read about if it wasn't for the constant encouragement he got from Jonathan. Jonathan encouraged David in 3 different ways. He encouraged him with his words, his actions, and his presence. David knew the king wanted him dead. He was spinning out and losing focus. His circumstances had overwhelmed him beyond his trust in God, and he was ready to give up and run for the hills. Jonathan encouraged him, filled him with courage with his words. These weren't just empty platitudes. Jonathan used his words very intentionally. He said, "You are not going to die. Look, my father doesn't do anything, great or small, without letting me know. Why would he hide this from me? It isn't so." He reasoned with him. He pointed out some facts of the situation that David may have been missing. Jonathan reminded him, "My father doesn't do anything without letting me know. I can warn you and protect you." And often when people are overwhelmed and afraid, it's harder to see the situation accurately. Jonathan helps David see the situation in a new way and points out some of the reassuring facts that David isn't seeing. Jonathan also reminds David of God's promises. God chose David to be the next king. Jonathan reassures him that God is with him and has a plan for him. Most importantly, Jonathan helps David find his faith in God again. We can only give our friends so much courage and hope on our own. The best thing we can do is point them to the one who can give them a hope that never runs out. The second way Jonathan encourages David is with his actions. Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it for you." Jonathan promises to encourage David with more than just words, but with his actions. He promises to truly help him through this situation. "I will be there to help however I can. You don't have to do this by yourself." True encouragement doesn't just talk, it acts. Whether it's bringing over meals, helping out with rides, chores, or errands, planning and organizing for them. And the one action we can always take is to pray for each other. Difficult situations are a lot easier to face with a team supporting you. The third way Jonathan encourages David is with his presence. David stayed in the wilderness strongholds up in the hills and the desert of Ziph, and day after day Saul searched for him, but God did not give David into his hands. David was hiding out in the wilderness. He was alone and afraid, and it says Jonathan went to David at Horesh and helped him find strength in God. "Don't be afraid," he said. Jonathan showed up to be with him in person. The presence of a friend can go a long way. David was no longer alone. He had someone that was willing to come all the way to give him encouragement. It was easier for David to face his fears with someone right there by his side. Sometimes there are no words to say. There are no actions or kind deeds that are going to make it better, but you can always be there when a friend needs you. Sometimes just sitting next to them and being there is really the most encouraging thing you can do. Being an encourager is countercultural. In a world that's all about me, encouragers say, "I see you and your struggles, and I care about you just as much as I care about myself." In a world where we're already so busy with our own problems and our own lives, encouragers don't hesitate to spend their time and energy on others. And in a world where most relationships are overly competitive or constantly comparing ourselves, encouragers can truly be happy for others, even if they're getting what we wish we had. David never invited or asked for Jonathan's encouragement. He didn't ask him to pray for him. He didn't invite him to come out into the wilderness. Jonathan just did it because he knew his friend needed it. Jonathan knew his friend was struggling, and he chose to do something about it. So this week we're going to be intentional about encouraging others. We all have someone in our life that could use some encouragement. In fact, everyone could use some sort of encouragement every day. Life is really hard. Most of us could probably come up with multiple friends that could use encouragement. And this week, we are going to commit to doing something about it with our words, our actions, and our presence. And here's my last piece of encouragement for you. If you've been struggling with the Bible reading plan this study, or you haven't started it at all, give it a try this week. 5 days, 5 passages. Try and find what works for you. Read with music on, read outside, read over lunch, journal, pray, talk to a friend, share your thoughts with your spouse or a member of your group. Find a way to support each other as a house church. I hope you all encourage one another as we continue to work on our relationships this week.